Nick, Knack, Patty Whack. The Giants are whack, and this is a Dumb Sports Podcast. This week, we've got lots of great things planned for you. We've got some collaborations with other shows, and we've got to go ahead and get started. So the good folks over at KLTS Sports Talk have put up a Twitter poll to decide which of all the professional sports mascots would win in a fight. By mascots, we're referring to the actual animals that the mascot represents. To put our own little twist on this, two teams from the same sport get a team up or create a hybrid or whatever. So, guys, who do you got, and what kind of line would you give them? Matt, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the NHL, and I'm going to match up the Carolina Hurricanes with the Calgary Flames. So we now have a hurricane that emits fire. I'm putting that up against anybody. No,
I feel like
no
you
way.
missed a Sharknado opportunity with that one.
That's fine. I'm going to take a fiery hurricane over your Sharknado.
That does sound pretty scary, actually.
What kind of odds are you going to give yourself there?
Oh, dude, they're going to be at least minus 400 on anybody they go up against, at minimum.
It's 400. Wow. All right, Sean, what about you? What are you thinking?
So I'm going to go NFL, and I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings and the Tennessee Titans. And I'm going to try and cover two mythical – you can have yourself a Norse god and a Titan who takes down all the Greek gods. So I'm looking at somebody that's jacked up, throwing lightning with big old horns and being intimidating and pillaging and doing a bunch of other stuff to anyone that gets in their way. That's pretty much where I'm going to go with it. So, yeah, we'll just go with that one.
All right. I like the going straight Titans there. That probably would defeat a hurricane. All right. T, what about you? Where are you going?
I'm going to double down. I'm going to go kind of the same route as Sean with these. I don't know if you would consider a giant a mythical creature. I feel like there are actual giants around. I don't know, though. I'm going to combine a giant and a lion, though. Giant with lion head. And let's just see what happens. Like, I don't know what the odds of that would be. I know Matt's got minus 400, but I'll take some plus money action, see what happens against that fiery hurricane.
All right. Well, I'm going to the NBA, and I'm going to take the Orlando Magic and the Toronto Raptors, and I'm going to make some Magic Raptors. That's right, Raptors who know magic. And we're not talking about, like, David Blaine street magic. They're not pulling cards out of their hat or whatever. But these are Raptors that are going to be able to cast a spell, Harry Potter style. Like, just imagine those Raptors from Jurassic Park with some Avada Kedavra shooting out everywhere. So, yeah, I'm going to go with minus 400 just to copy Matt. I don't know how things work. All right. That brings us to our next segment, which is a fan segment. The following topic was submitted to us by Brendan Skis on Facebook. Who is the most broadly accepted all-time great that is really an overrated player in one of the sports? They even let us off with Kevin Garnett. What's everybody's thoughts on KG to start? Sean, what about you? What do you think about KG?
KG was a really good defensive player. I think the 2008 season, the year that Kobe Bryant won the MVP, I think in the first half of the season, you probably could have given the MVP to him. In the second half of the season, probably to Chris Paul. And the guy that was kind of consistent was just Kobe Bryant. KG is a force in the locker room. He adds energy. He helps in home court advantage situations because he's a hype guy. As far as him being overrated, I guess I really don't have a problem with it because he's considered an all-time great. Been to two finals, showed up, did his thing. He's among the people to start the whole super team thing. Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to call him overrated in comparison to, if you want to say he's like a Mount Rushmore dude, obviously not. But probably the best Minnesota Timberwolves. So we'll just stick with that. I think he's probably more appropriately rated than he is overrated. But as a defensive player and as a team leader, I think he's adequately placed in those categories.
Plus, if there's anything I've learned from being in quarantine and watching all these movies, if you give that dude his black opal, you're putting your money on him, right, T?
Nice, yes. Yeah, that was the best acting I've seen him do since he used to pretend to want to fight people on the court, so. Yeah, when it comes to Kevin Garnett, I lean overrated. I think what was cool about Kevin Garnett was that he was just so efficient, but then he would always get that 8 seed with Minnesota and then run into the Kings or the Lakers and then just get like schwacked in the playoffs. I think Kevin Garnett, I kind of think of like a black Tim Duncan. They're pretty much like the same, but like Kevin Garnett was just way more intense and just like way more in your face. So, nothing special about him. Probably one of the most boring superstars ever, like Tim Duncan, but just a different version.
So here's my thing. What do Corey Brewer, Kelly Tripucka, I actually have no idea who this is, Dave Bing, and let's just throw out a Michael Adams have in common?
I have no idea.
They all have scored more points than Kevin Garnett in a basketball game.
Oh, wow.
The list is significantly longer than that. But yeah, Kevin Garnett, most points he ever scored was 47. So I actually think despite all of his offensive gifts, he had a great post game, but he was incapable of blowing up and just dropping a huge amount of points on people. You could kind of count on him for his 20-25 occasional 30 points, but he was never going to be able just to have that load of scoring put on his shoulders and then, just deliver and go to him and get it and get it and get it. So that's kind of where I think he definitely gets overrated a little bit.
Right.
I mean, he's Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen has the exact same all-time.
Whoa.
Yep, but Scottie was never asked to lead a team in title games. Kevin Garnett was the best player for the Timberwolves for forever, basically until he got traded to the Celtics and then the Nets. He was the guy that led that franchise. So it wasn't until you get to Boston, you get other guys that can take the scoring load and some of the focus away from you that he found success on the team level. But yeah, I mean, he was an MVP with the Timberwolves once upon a time. So I think Charles hits the nail on the head with him probably being overrated as an offensive player. So then that, when we think of Hall of Fame all-time greats, we think of dudes that light you up in a hurry, guys that drop 50, 60, 40. They've done something crazy in the playoffs, like have, wild stat lines when games are on the live or on the line. And he never really did that when he was completely the focal spot of the team. So
I feel like he would have been a great number 2. Like if you would have matched him up with Kobe, I feel like that would have been pretty successful.
Well, he was successful when he had good players around him. The one year where they made it all the way to Western Conference Finals, it's because he had Latrell Sprewell back when he still had some juice, and he also had Sam Cassell there.
Yeah, Troy Hudson, don't sleep on that guy either. Troy Hudson was an animal there too.
Well, and Zerbiak was there. He just got hurt halfway through the year. That squad was a decent squad, and that's why they made it to the Western Conference Finals. The problem is Cassell got hurt, Zerbiak got hurt, and they just weren't the same team by the time they made it to the Lakers. And it took them a minute to beat the Kings too. But yeah, they were able to beat that Kings team that was stacked. So I do think he was capable of being the best player on a good team, but he had to have a lot of talent around him for it to really work out. And I'm just saying, I think he has a lot in common with Scottie Pippen. Both of them, very good defensive players. Both of them very capable as scorers, but just not capable of just giving them the ball and getting it done over and over again.
Fair.
Right on.
All right, what are the other overrated players that each of you thought of? T, let's start with you.
So I was really going to go with another guy that kind of reminds me of Kevin Garnett. I was going to go with Paul Pierce originally. I had a lot to say about him, but then I thought about it for 30 seconds and realized that Paul Pierce isn't worth my time. I'm going to go with a dude, and I already know this is going to get some backlash. I'm really interested to see how this lands. I'm really hoping that we'll get some feedback on Twitter. I'm going to go with Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter, I mean, when he went to baseball, I really, really enjoyed him. When he left baseball, we acted like nobody had ever seen any player ever retire. But I mean, as I think back on baseball, especially when I was growing up, I don't remember Derek Jeter even being the best of his position. I know that he never won an MVP, even being considered a clutch player. I mean, I think of those Red Sox teams that like they matched up with. I mean, I feel like he doesn't have a single moment that comes close to anything David Ortiz did in those playoff runs or, in his heyday. I mean, I look at like some of the other guys that played in the same era, which, I mean, provided a couple of these were, they were like on the tail run for sure, like Cal Ripken Jr. and Barry Larkin. But I mean, I think of Omar Vizquel, and that's probably my first pick when it comes to a shortstop. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say like, oh, it was only because he was a Yankee, because that I don't think that's an excuse. I think that Derek Jeter was a good player, but when it comes to being over, I mean, some people talk about that guy like he is, I mean, just like the most incredible thing to ever happen to professional baseball, and I just don't see it at all.
I like that. That's a strong take, T, and I respect it. I mean, he was the captain of the Yankees. He kind of gets the whole. He played big market, and they won a lot of titles. And he's an easy guy to market. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He clean cut, well spoken, and he was an adequate baseball. He was definitely a legitimate. He was definitely a legitimate all-star. But like you said, I don't think he's. You put him in the upper echelon of. He was consistent. He wasn't. He was never really. His ceiling and his floor were really close. They were really close together in how bad he could be and how really good he was. And
Right.
you have moments with him because people remember moments more so than they remember seasons, especially when you got 162 games. Everyone knows the cutoff flip play, right?
Yeah.
Him diving in the stands and, overselling the foul ball that he caught out of bounds and coming up all bloodied up. We remember that. His opposite direction walk-off in the final game of his career, or his 3,000th hit was a home run on a dude that barely hit 3 home runs in his career. So
Right.
you have moments with this guy that are incredibly memorable. Him jumping both arms raised over his head, winning World Series titles. Him being among the originals that came up in the mid-'90s that lasted all the way to their 2009 run.
Right.
You have moments with that guy that people remember. You have anchor points throughout the history of baseball as you're growing up, and he happens to somehow be there, and he avoided scandal. When it comes to professional baseball. But I don't think he was anything otherworldly exceptional. Definitely an all-star, definitely
Right.
a Hall of Famer, but not like the greatest thing since,
And that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, because like I agree 100%, and I think that's right where I am with him as well. I mean, provided like some of the greats that we talk about played a different position. And like, I mean, I think if you put like Ken Griffey Jr. next to Derek Jeter, I feel like it's the Grand Canyon, honestly. I mean, I feel like Ken Griffey Jr. was like closer to the Willie Mays of my generation. I think if you think 90s or if you talk 90s baseball, I feel like Derek Jeter, top 20 player for sure. Loved him as a kid. I mean, kind of like a Chipper Jones kind of guy who was like one of my top 3 favorite players of all time.
Sure.
But I mean, I think if you spread out, if you move it out of the 90s, you consider baseball all time. I don't think you even put Derek Jeter in the top. I mean, he's not even close to the top 25.
I'll even put it this way with you. So you just said Chipper Jones. I think if you're actually talking baseball, see, Derek Jeter is regarded as one of the all-time greats. He's going to get, the number 2 jersey retired for the Yankees. But I actually think Chipper Jones is probably a better baseball player.
For sure.
He had a longer career. He bat 300 from both sides of the plate.
Yes.
He was a part of another dynastic team with that crazy run of 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, however many division titles they reamed off in a row.
I think it was 21.
Well, they were out of control in the 90s and the early 2000s. And I would actually say, if you want to talk overrated, that team was incredibly disappointing because they only won 1 World Series.
Exactly.
But Chipper Jones, as far as you're talking just straight baseball player, we're not talking marketability and things that, that make sales with Nike. But if we didn't have any of that stuff and you just probably look raw numbers, and I don't have them up in front of me, but I bet you Chipper Jones is favorable probably in WAR and a few other things against Derek Jeter.
I think the biggest thing with him was he was a big name. The Yankees are probably the biggest name in baseball, and he was drafted by him and stayed with him. Like, who was the last person that the Yankees drafted that stuck around, like that they didn't just buy? Like he was like just the heart of New York for them.
Oh yeah, he was an anchor to that city, and I mean, again, we talk having little benchmark moments when when all that stuff happened in New York in 2001 with 9/11.
Yeah,
and people rallying around the Yankees, and they were already on their run of I think 3 or 4 titles in 4 or 5 years, something like that at that time, and Yeah, I think Jeter, there's a lot with him that goes with, like you can point to him because when you think 90s baseball, you also think Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And obviously that whole era is tainted and tarnished and whatnot. And Derek Jeter, he went through unscathed. And, when people think of doing things the right way, we think of Derek Jeter. But I think it's fair to say that's a good overrated player. I like that because that'll spark discussion too. So
Right.
I like that, T.
And Matt, so I'll have to fact check this, but I just looked it up. So before Jeter, the last dude that the Yankees drafted and kept for about as long as Jeter, so late into career, was Don Mattingly, and that was a while ago. So, I mean, I definitely think that plays into it for sure. But, I mean, I just think about it, and I just don't think there's enough to talk about him like he's, the god of baseball. So
I think a huge issue with Jeter is how baseball used to be scouted. And since Jeter didn't really have a glaring weakness, like a part of his game where you could point at it and be like, oh yeah, but he sucks at this, it's really easy to point at him and be like, oh, well, that's how great he is. And I think that happens with Mike Trout a little bit too, whereas an average fan, you look at him and you say like, wow, this guy's really good at baseball, but why doesn't this translate to wins? The way scouting works with baseball, people look at it and they're like, wow, look how many tools this guy has. He has no weakness into what he does. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happened with Jeter, where they're like, wow, if he needs to hit it deep, he can hit it deep a little bit. He's consistent. He doesn't have bad days, that kind of thing. And so I think within, his reputation, not having that weak spot kind of elevated him above. And it's like Sean said, his ceiling and his floor were really close together. And the myth of his existence due to his moments kind of raised his perceived ceiling above what it was, which is by definition overrated. So yeah, overrated.
Nice.
All right, Sean, who are you taking?
I'm going to go the same route as T. Possibly controversial. Hopefully start some discussion. I'm willing to hurt some feelings over it, and that's okay because you know what? It's dumb sport. So you don't have to look at me as an intelligent person who you don't have to look at me that way. So my overrated player is Brett Favre. I mean, the dude already has the all-time record for interceptions for your career. His NFL postseason record of 6 INTs in a game with 3 that went to the house against the Rams. There was a point in time in the late 2000s where he had lost more games, and he's definitely thrown more playoff interceptions than any other quarterback. And I understand you have to get to the game in order to throw interceptions in the playoffs, but he's done it more than anyone else. And in contrast to his career, we think of him as this warrior, this great player, this guy that willed his team and, all these things. He's the gunslinger. He's all these things. He embodies the spirit of the blue-collar guy. I mean, also, he was incredibly turnover-prone. Throughout his entire career, he averaged slightly more than 22 turnovers per season. If you put that in contrast to somebody like Vinny Testaverde, that dude turned the ball over 21 times per season in his career, and he didn't hold the job very long. You look at Rex Grossman, who Packer fans should look at, really lovingly because Rex Grossman was in their division for a little while. That dude could barely hold down a job, and he was averaging 18 a season. And, I mean, we think about Jameis Winston, dude in his 30 for 30 stat. That guy threw 30 interceptions, and he lost his job. In 2005, he had 36 turnovers in 16 games. Brett Favre, I mean, and again, being this clutch, gunslinger, all this other stuff. I think back to the 2007 NFC title game, 2007-2008 NFC title game against the Giants. And on the very first play, he gifts an interception to Corey Webster and sends the Giants on as a 10-6 team to go and win the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, I guess when it's a law of large numbers thing with this guy. Like, if I'm rolling the dice this many times over and over and over and over and over and over again, I'm going to roll Yahtzee. So, oh, yeah, this guy, he had all these yards, all these touchdowns, all these wins. Well, you played since, the NFL freaking merger. Like, you were actually the MVP winning quarterback of Super Bowl I. So congratulations. You outlasted Father Time, kind of. But, I mean, when I think about when people are in love with Brett Favre being one of the greatest of all time, like saying he's a Mount Rushmore dude. Nah, he ain't even in the top 10. Like, that guy, he won a lot of games, but he underwhelmingly performed in the playoffs. Outside of his first 2 Super Bowl appearances. He then went, and I think he maybe won 9 playoff, maybe in his 10, 11 playoff appearances since then. I think he won 3 games. He won the wild card game against the Seahawks when Matt Hasselbeck gave them that game. So that was a gift from his former backup. But yeah, 4 total games after, he goes to the NFC title game or after he wins the Super Bowl. 5. So yeah, that's incredibly underwhelming for somebody that's supposed to be one of the greatest of all time. You win 1 Super Bowl title against a team that you were heavily favored against, and you also lost the Super Bowl against a team that you were also heavily favored against. Just underwhelming performances. You take away those 2 years, and the guy's lucky to even have a job. And it's a good thing he won in Green Bay because for whatever reason they were loyal to a guy that turned the ball over almost as much as he threw touchdowns. So you basically chained your wagon to Jameis Winston for 50 years. So, that's cool. Go Packers.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good listening to you talk, I think that there's usually a guy that people bring up because his stats are garbage, but he played in an era that was just weird, and that's Joe Namath. I think if you want to get as close to Joe Namath an artist, that is Brett Favre. Careless with the ball, minus a guaranteed Super Bowl win. And I mean, it was all right. You know what I mean? It was kind of cool, I guess.
You look at the MVP of the Super Bowl. If I were to ask you right now, don't look, who's the MVP of that Super Bowl? And the only reason I remember it is because it was cool because that guy was a Heisman Trophy winner too. But it's Desmond Howard. It's not even, it had nothing. I mean, he was okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a guy that he underperformed in the postseason. One of his lasting postseason moments is with the Minnesota Vikings when he throws the ball away when you have a chance to go and win this game and go to the Super Bowl. You made a mistake. You did something that you absolutely didn't need to do, and it was your fault. You threw that crazy and I understand that's part of, the whole gunslinger mystique of Brett Favre. But I think same deal with Derek Jeter, how you have moments with him. We remember Brett Favre, and this is a true thing, after his dad passed away and he lit up, on Monday Night Football. That's awesome.
Raiders game, yeah.
Freaking great. And we remember Brett Favre for his boyish charm and picking people up and, shaking people's hands and making the game fun. And again, it's all about the whole doing things the right way type stuff. You know what I mean? You don't hear reports of him riding guys like, say, Michael Jordan. You got people, he's celebrating in the stands. He's doing Lambeau leaps with the players. People love this guy. And it's all fine and dandy. But, again, there are times in his career where it was geez, man, there's a reason why they drafted Aaron Rodgers in the first round. You know what I mean? It was time, and it was happening. And he gave him a couple of years after that. But, Brett Favre, as far as overrated is for me, that's definitely my number 1 overrated player by far is Brett Favre of the Green Bay Packers.
See, I'm going to go the exact opposite. I actually think he's underrated because everybody forgets about him. And I'm pretty sure nobody else out there has the 3 straight MVPs. He went 38-13, 39-13, and 35-16 in 3 straight years. And when we talk about quarterback play, realistically, the best quarterbacks have pretty mediocre averages. Peyton Manning, if you look at his whole career, he doesn't have great averages. What he has are some seasons that are outstanding. And those 3 years aren't even his best seasons. His second to last year, 2009 in Minnesota, he went 33-7. That's his best year as far as touchdown interception. And just overall statistically, it's one of his best years too. So, at 40 years old, he goes out and puts down one of his best years all time. So I actually think if you just look at his peaks, his ceiling, he definitely outperforms the reputation that he gets. I feel like Aaron Rodgers has made everybody forget about Brett Favre, but I feel like Brett Favre actually has done more for the Packers than Rodgers has. Rodgers has gotten them to 1 Super Bowl. That's it. And you can cry about the supporting cast all you want, but he's had some dang good wide receivers there. And some pretty talented running backs have come through the door. Eddie Lacy probably can't get out of a door anymore.
Guys.
But he's had some people come through. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I say Brett Favre's actually underrated. I can understand your argument because it depends who you're talking to, right? If you talk to the right Packers fan, all of a sudden you're hearing about Aaron Rodgers as if he was the Messiah, and you're like, okay, yeah, he's not that at all. But if you talk to people like me who are just like obsessed with Aaron Rodgers, and then you're like, well, okay, but what about Brett Favre? Like, I don't think I would call Aaron Rodgers the best Packers quarterback. Like, definitely the most talented, but I can't look at what Brett Favre did and just be like, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers has those 3 straight MVPs too, right?
I mean, again, Brett Favre, it's throwing Yahtzee. We take his 4, big years that he had, and he played in the NFL for 95 years. So, overall, you're talking about 4% of his entire career was great. So, woo, that's really, really cool. But
4%, nice.
Yeah. So, so ultimately, yeah, I'm just getting after Brett Favre a little bit. I mean, obviously a Hall of Famer. Dude led the league, or all-time leader for a while in touchdowns and yards. But to not remember the amount of losses he had in postseason. Again, if he doesn't win a Super Bowl early in his career, he's with Karl Malone, he's with John Stockton, he's with guys that are, among the greatest to have never done it. And, if Desmond Howard doesn't house I think it was a punt or kick return or whatever he did, I mean, the Patriots were within striking distance, and you were heavily favored to win that Super Bowl, and you almost didn't get it done. So you don't win that Super Bowl early on, because that seems to erase everything that happens with a quarterback. Think about Eli Manning, for example. I mean, shoot, this dude averaged more turnovers than Eli Manning has in his entire career. And Eli Manning, this guy, people have conversations like he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So,
don't get Charles started on Eli Manning.
I'm just
See,
saying.
that's the thing, though. I think about that Super Bowl that Brett Favre even won, and that's got to be like against one of the worst teams that has ever. Them and the 1985 Chicago Bears. Who was the runner-up in that AFC championship game in 1997? I don't know if anybody has that up, but I'm willing to bet that if the Packers had to play that team, they probably would have lost. Just like if the Bears had to play the Miami Dolphins with Marino that year, they probably would have lost that Super Bowl. But I don't know. Very unimpressive, if you ask me.
That AFC title game was the Broncos and the Steelers.
Yeah, just pulling up the stats for the Super Bowl. It looks like Brett Favre was 14 for 27. Not great. 2 TDs, 107.9 passer rating, 0 interceptions. Oh, he had a rushing touchdown too. So, 3 TDs, 246 yards. No interceptions though. Not exactly a bad game.
Not exactly a bad game, but again, we're talking if people want to try and put him on some Mount Rushmore quarterbacks, I don't think he's anywhere close to that high.
Yeah, I don't think he's on a Mount Rushmore at all.
I'm not saying he's top 5. I just think he's like, I'm not putting Aaron Rodgers there either. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can dig it.
All right, Matt, who's your overrated all-time great?
Yeah, I got 2. I'll keep it short for both of them. Russell Westbrook drives me absolutely insane. I think this dude is the biggest stat patter we've ever seen. Never, ever shows up in big games. This dude shows up in the playoffs about as good as Matt Ryan does in a Super Bowl. And I just think he's absolutely terrible. My other one, which I think is a little controversial, is Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is great at being loved. I mean, he's incredible at marketing himself and just being out there. But do you guys know the last time Conor McGregor held a UFC title? Does anybody know?
I don't.
Okay.
It was
2016.
2016 was the last time that he held a title. This dude, I mean, he's had some incredible moments, but he's basically the Ronda Rousey of the men's division.
That's fair.
And that's where I'm going to stop.
So I just looked this up just for kicks. Matt Ryan and Brett Favre had identical stats in the Super Bowl. So the one that Brett Favre won, Matt Ryan obviously lost to the Patriots. Their stats are like identical. 17 of 23, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
That's great.
That's crazy.
So I actually looked something up as well. So I said, okay, so the Packers team that beat the Patriots in that Super Bowl, it's got to be one of the worst Super Bowl teams ever, and that they would have lost to the other team in the AFC Championship. So the Patriots actually played the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC Championship that year. I'm going to rescind that comment and let's just forget about that.
All right. Any other thoughts? Conor McGregor, Russell Westbrook. My thing, if you're
Go
going
ahead,
Westbrook, you have to go Harden too, because I feel like Harden and Westbrook have their histories tied together for whatever reason. And I feel like the two of them have similar problems in the postseason.
Yep. And I think his Ronda Rousey comment, similar in the fact that their peak of popularity was super high, but what makes them tick as far as a fighter, I think that's their biggest difference. Ronda Rousey bought in, and she's talked about this before, that she bought into her identity. So when she lost, it felt like she lost a part of herself and she got into a very dark place. Whereas Conor McGregor, he's a straight Irishman who just wants to fight. Even after a loss, he'll congratulate the guy. Good job. Let's roll it back. Let's do it again. This dude has multiple losses on his career, and he's always willing to get up and fight. So
Yeah, I will say he's great. He's a great loser. Like, he talks the talk beforehand, but when it comes to him losing, he's always handled it extremely well.
yep.
Yeah, I would really like to see him go against Masvidal. I feel like the two of them are two guys who actually really like to fight. Maybe not the two best fighters around, but I think both of them just really like to get in there and throw down. So it could be pretty fun to watch.
Yep. Oh, and their pre-fight build-up, because both those guys are masters when it comes to working the crowd and the microphone and everything like that. That's about as good of promotional fight content as you'll get since Don King. So I think with those two getting after each other, and then they actually do want to scrap, like those dudes aren't trying to get a decision. Somebody's going down, and that's how those guys want it. So yeah, I think the Jorge Masvidal and Conor McGregor, I think it's a good money fight. Probably not one of the best fights you could have as far as competition goes, but if you're looking to make some money on pay-per-view buys and people watching it, that's the one you make. So I agree with that, Charles.
All right. We'll go ahead and keep moving to our next topic, which is essential or non-essential. T, why don't you go ahead and tell us about this?
Yeah, so the other day I was changing a light bulb in my dining room, and I was thinking about just how much I hate to purchase light bulbs, but how much you actually have to. So that got me thinking, and I was thinking about how Jerry Jones appears to have forgotten that, the Quincy Carter days were a thing, along with Chad Hutchinson. So although it can't be easy paying a quarterback like Dak, I feel like you have to. So this segment comes from the idea, what are some spendy purchases or items that you absolutely hate buying, these essential items, and what are their NFL counterparts? So I'll start off with an example. I've already mentioned light bulbs, which to me is like Christian McCaffrey. I mean, you could get the same exact amount of light from two other cheap light bulbs, but you're going to be changing those out even more. My number one that I absolutely hate, which this is a very specific type of battery, but I hate nothing more than when I'm just trying to watch my programs and I have That 70s Show going or Sanford and Son, and the kids run downstairs and they're like, "Hey, Dad, it's finally dark outside. Can we borrow your lantern so we can go out in the backyard and pretend to be stranded Chilean mine workers?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let me put some batteries in the lantern, but I need the D4 batteries, and I have none of them, so then I got to go to the store and buy D4 batteries." That's kind of what Dak Prescott is, because, again, Dak 4, you hate paying for them, but again, like, if you want to make your kids happy, you got to get those batteries. So, but that's just me. What do you think, Matt? What are some essentials that you hate spending money on?
Yeah, here's where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to compare dental work to NFL centers. And here's how I'm going to go. Let's play that your quarterback is food. Everybody loves food. Everybody loves to eat food, right? But if you have messed up teeth, it's going to be painful. It's not going to be enjoyable like it should be. And if you don't have a center that knows your quarterback and, coincides with him, it's going to be rough.
I like it. I agree with you.
Plus,
well said.
They make the best Super Bowl speeches in history.
That is true.
That's fair.
Sean, what do you think? What are some essentials?
So I'm going to stick with automotive a little bit, and I'm going to say the battery in your car is the equivalent of coaches. because, whether you're trying to start your car or do anything, you want something that's going to be around for a little bit and something you can depend on, but you kind of forget about it. But it's absolutely essential to make the vehicle go forward. So, batteries in your car, they usually last anywhere between, 3 to 5 years with normal use. Even if your alternator is good, if you got a good GM, batteries wear out and you need to replace batteries. Sometimes you just need a new battery because just something's wrong. You need a new voice in the locker room. Sometimes you need extra juice for the car to do its thing. So, batteries aren't like the most expensive thing in the world, but they're not cheap, especially if you want a good one. So, it won't break the budget, but still not something I feel like spending anywhere between $100 and $300 on, depending on the size of vehicle you have and what you're trying to drive. So, coaches, I'm going to go with battery in your car. Charles, what you feeling?
I'm going to go with a box fan as a backup quarterback because every once in a while, your primary choice, your air conditioning breaks down. Or if you're an Eagles fan, it seems like it happens every year. And for some reason, you just spent so much money on it that you can't afford to, just get a new air conditioning because you trust the one you got for whatever reason. And so you need to have something you can turn to. And that's where the box fan comes in. And you're pretty much always sure you have one lying around. But when you don't, you have to go to the store and decide if you want to buy one of those $20 plastic ones that the screen's going to break on and your kid's going to stick their fingers in and all that stuff. Or you're going to spend a little more money on one of those ones that swivels back and forth and makes like a knocking noise every 2 seconds that you want to, throw out the window. But eventually you settle on whatever you're going to pay for. And, maybe you go for the Dyson, like the Packers and the Eagles just did in the draft. Spend a little bit more on it. But once you have that box fan, it's not going to get you through the summer. It's not intended to be the full season, but it can get you through a couple weeks.
I like it.
Would Taysom Hill be like a window swamp cooler? It's always there. You can turn it on when you need a little extra cool.
Yeah, I don't know, because he's there for one thing. He's more like a spray bottle. It's there for a completely different purpose, but if you get hot, you can go ahead and spray your face with it a little bit.
There you go. I like it.
Nice.
Although it's an expensive spray bottle now.
Exactly. The most expensive spray bottle.
Third string quarterback making that much money.
A kablillion dollars. Yeah.
Anybody else have any ideas?
The one that comes to mind is kind of ironic just because this player got traded away from my team and this item in my house broke the same day. But the fridge water and ice dispenser would definitely be Khalil Mack. Things weren't great with it. I mean, I can't say that my quality of life was any better when I had fridge water. But once it was gone, I definitely noticed. I'm now drinking out of a Brita that has, that's attached to my sink. That hasn't had the filter changed, I'm pretty sure, since like 1992 when the people that used to live in this house bought it. But things are going all right. I guess eventually one day I'll get that replaced and all fixed up. But it is what it is.
I like it.
Yep. I'm gonna go with so my car sometimes will do this and Tiana laughs every time it happens when this notification comes on. But I'm going to say both the remember to buckle your seatbelt light and the windshield washer fluid is low light notification in your car as the NFL kicker. Just because I don't need to be reminded. Yes, I know I need to put my seatbelt on and it comes on after over 5 miles per hour. But it's an unnecessary noise I hear, and it's something that has to be done. Especially the windshield washer fluid. That's not really an emergency. I don't care that that's low. Don't give me that notification. I look at that almost as kickers. Actually, maybe almost as I'm just gonna stick with kickers. That's one that I have. It's necessary. You need it, and could absolutely save your life. But I don't need to be reminded to put my seatbelt on as I'm leaving my driveway.
Yeah, I'm going to go with primary quarterbacks as an oil change, and for a couple of reasons here. So first of all, primary quarterbacks, if you've got one that you like if you've got a car, your team's looking good, you are always going to go full synthetic. You're never going to go anything else. And you can try and take care of it yourself if you know what you're doing. But if you're honest with yourself and you're like, oh, I need to go to the scouting department, you can go ahead and take it somewhere else. If you're an idiot, you go to Jiffy Lube or someplace like that, have them forget to put the cap on or whatever, and, just destroy your entire franchise. Or you can always go take it to, professionals that you trust, somebody who's been doing it for a while, doesn't have any of that nonsense on their record. And of course, better results, takes a little bit more time, costs a little bit more money. But when you finally get it, you can trust that you've got that full synthetic in there, that things are running okay, everything's, getting done right. The problem is if you don't have a great car, if your vehicle is not in great condition, you do not want to spend money on that crap. You're just going to go drop, cheapest oil you can find, just whatever quarterback's on the market. You're going to grab them, throw them out there. Hey, if it breaks down, get that insurance money, try and do a quick claim or something like that. Hey, they didn't put oil in my car. Not my fault the car broke down. That was Jiffy Lube. Whatever. Like, that's what you're hoping for. So, I mean, that's like gambling for a good pick in the draft the next year, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Nice.
Anybody else?
No.
All right, so Tom Brady and Peyton Manning participated in a crossover golf match for charity. Regardless of whether or not it was the only sporting event on TV, it's still technically the highest viewed golf event ever. What are some more crossover events you'd like to see, and who would you like to see participate? T, go ahead and get us started.
First one that comes to mind that I would actually pay really good money to see live would be NFL wide receivers playing 7-on-7 with MLB pitchers throwing the football. And my dream matchup would be, or my dream combo would be to see, whiny OBJ try to catch a one-hander from Aroldis Chapman, who will probably be seeing a football for the first time because I think he's from Cuba, and I'm pretty sure anything swine-related is illegal down there. So I'm sure that he would just try to throw this bad boy to the moon, and I just don't see Odell doing anything with it. But it would be super, super entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be sweet.
I'd love to see some MLB pitchers playing handball, especially if we could get, the best ones, the Randy Johnsons of the world, go into a handball game against some of these people from, I don't know, like Belarus or whatever, introduce them to 104 mile an hour pitch. That's what I like to see.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I want to see Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal team up with the greatest ping pong players in the world on ESPN 8 The Ocho. Let's see an all-time ping pong match.
What's that weird crossover between tennis and ping pong that people are playing in the parks? They have
pickleball. Pickleball.
Yeah, I'd watch Federer play pickleball.
That'd be sweet.
With a 70-year-old man.
Right.
Isn't Federer 70 now?
Probably.
He's getting close. Sean, what about you? You have anything you want to see?
Yeah, I'd like to see some alleged Y chromosome having soccer players play hockey. I would be all for that action. An all-enforcer hockey team playing against some male soccer players.
Oh, boy.
Would just make me so happy because you have people who fake being injured against people who play through injuries. I'd like to see some frickin' decleters. I'd like to see some missing teeth. Yeah, that'd be fun for me to watch. I also, speaking of the Ocho, some professional bowlers playing professional cornhole. Similar release, similar look, and both those can get rather rowdy. They have their niche audiences, and I'm sure Denny's and IHOP would love to sponsor that too. So I'm all for professional bowlers playing professional cornhole. I think that'd be great.
I love it.
You just put the biggest rivals as co-sponsors. That's like Pepsi and Coke sponsoring something.
Cool. Well, you got IHOP doing cornhole, and you got Denny's because they got the Grand Slam something $100,000 professional.
The Rascal Flats breakfast
for professional bowlers. So yeah, I'm sure maybe get some Cracker Barrel. I'm sure they do the Cracker Barrel 3000 something whatever.
Right.
Throw some number in there, and if you really want to get weird, you can have Village Inn or what's the other one? The Golden Corral. Like that one could get wild. Like anything with Golden Corral in it, that's Daytona 500 for rednecks right there. So, which Daytona 500 for rednecks, that's saying something because the Daytona 500 is exactly for rednecks. So if we're going to be having the Cracker Barrel Cornhole tournament, you're getting it off.
Do you think we can get Denny's to let us name one of their things? Like if we, co-sponsor, like we'll give them a free read, shout them out on the show if they give a breakfast after us, like the Dumb Sports Podcast Slam. And it's just like
they gave us some Dumb Sports donuts, because if Denny's is a franchise-owned whatever, and you kind of have some leeway with franchises in your area, maybe if that's a thing, maybe we can get Layton or Ogden to freaking give it a Dumb Sports donut in there. That'd be nice.
Oh, see, I was thinking like oatmeal with fried eggs on top or something stupid.
It needs to be dumb, obviously, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think you might be able to do something like that. I think that's we'd have to ask around.
All right, so folks, this week I had the opportunity to sit down and do our very first Dumb Sports interview with Andy Buckler from DynastyNerds.com. Turns out he's a Giants fan, so I obviously don't care about anything he had to say, and I already kind of forgot what Andy said anything about. So let's go ahead and take a listen together and find out how that interview went. All right, Dumb Sports fans, we're here for our very first ever Dumb Sports conversation or Dumb Sports interview. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself? What's your name? Where are you from, etc.?
What's up, guys? My name is Andy Buckler. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm just a big sports fan. I also write fantasy content and stuff, and just decided to be here.
All right, that's great to have you. What team of all sports and all the teams is the one that breaks your heart the most when they lose, or the one that fills your soul with joy when they get the big wins?
I'm gonna have to go with the Giants. They break my heart a lot.
Oh, it's like crushed my soul because I hate the Giants with more hatred than anything I've ever seen ever. So this will be a fun interview. All right, so who, player, or team do you hate more than you love your family?
The Dallas Cowboys.
All right, that's fair. We've got a Cowboys guy on our podcast, and I also hate the Cowboys. I think that's the best part about being a fan of the NFC East is you get a natural hatred for every single other team in the division. It's a little different than other divisions in football, I think.
Besides the Redskins. No one cares about the Redskins.
Yeah, they're just a team that's kind of there. But, yeah, I feel like there's still a little bit of hate that comes from me there. All right, let's see. What's your worst memory of the Dallas Cowboys?
My worst memory. Every memory is pretty bad. I'd have to say probably when Dak Prescott won Rookie of the Year.
Just targeting Dak. All right. So you've got an unlimited budget for a Super Bowl party. Where are you having it? Who are you inviting? What are you eating or drinking? Be specific. We've got no sponsors for you to offend. So anything goes, Super Bowl party. Where are you doing it? What are you doing?
I'm gonna go to Vegas. All
right, what else? Where at in Vegas? Just the whole town? Gonna rent down a block of the strip and
No. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we're just gonna rent out the entire block. We're just gonna go crazy. I'm gonna try to get Mike Tyson there.
All right. That's a good choice.
I'm gonna try to get Gronk there.
Oh, also good choice. I know T would recommend Danny McBride if you can get him to go up.
And I need Tiger Woods.
Okay.
And then just the rest of my family and the rest of my friends. Just no Cowboys fans. I think that's good.
No Cowboys fans. All right. What about food? What are you eating and drinking at a Super Bowl party that you could have anything at?
Definitely wings at a Super Bowl party.
Mm-hmm. I like to hear it.
Definitely wings, pizza, and just a whole bunch of beer.
All right. So you got to participate in one play in a live game in any pro sport. Which play do you choose, and how bad do you think you fail because you're not a pro and you're still not likely to succeed regardless of, whatever sport you pick?
I'm gonna kick the game-winning field goal.
Oh, really? From what distance? From where are you good? Where are you money?
I'm from 30.
From 30? All right. Game-winning field goal from 30. All right. That can blow up in your face if you ask Cody Parkey about that.
Oh, I'm gonna shank it. I'm gonna shank it.
But you'll have both hands up and walk away as if it's going through.
Yeah.
All right, that's the way to do it. All right. If you could touch one body part of an athlete and forever have their talent from just that one body part, forever in whatever body part you touch them with, whose body part are you touching and what are you doing with that talent?
All right, that's a good one. I'm touching Steph Curry's hand. I'm taking his shooting ability. And I'm
That's
just going. And
exactly
I'm going to
my-
the league.
Yeah, I'd go to like Cedar Point and just rack up the stuffed animals. I love it. All right. If your love life were a position in sports, what would it be? Mine's a closer. You can just ask my wife. Kidding. So what's yours and why?
That's a good one. I'm a placeholder.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, man, it's pretty rough out here right now.
All right, that's fair, man. Well, hopefully this will get your name at least out there a little bit. All right, so now we'll go to lightning round. So in this round, you have to answer as many questions as you can, as fast as you can. You don't get any time to think. You're only allowed to answer questions, no stalling. All right, are you ready?
Yep.
All right, is a fantasy title more valuable to you than a real title for your fantasy team? Than a real title for your actual team. So for the Giants. So fantasy football or the Giants?
Well, my main league with all my friends, that's a pretty important one. I'm gonna still have to pick the Giants though.
All right, MJ or LeBron?
Oh, that's easy. That's MJ.
Who's better at sex, Tom Brady or Phillip Rivers?
Definitely Phillip Rivers.
All right, Larry Bird or Magic Johnson?
Magic Johnson.
What about for a porn name, Larry Bird or Magic Johnson?
Oh, Magic Johnson.
All right, racist and rich or woke and like middle class?
Woke and middle class.
All right, if you could win the lottery or inherit a sports team, let's say the Jets, which would you take?
I'll take the sports team.
All right, if you could, which do you prefer, breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
All right, with your wings, flats or drums?
Flats.
All right, with pizza, thin crust, stuffed crust, regular or deep dish?
Regular.
All right, favorite player?
Which sport?
Any sport, just of all time. Like if this is your one guy, this is all the sports, all the players, this is your guy.
Gary Sheffield.
All right. Favorite number?
34.
Okay. Favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans.
All right. Best color scheme in sports?
The Chargers.
All right. And which position should always be your first pick in fantasy football?
Running back.
All right. That's our lightning round. And I think you aced it. That's pretty solid.
Appreciate that.
All right, so that brings us to our final piece of this interview. That's shameless self-promotion. Go ahead and let our fans know what's going on. Tell them where they can find you, how they can help out. Anything that you want to share with them.
I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys for having me. You can find me on Twitter at Andy_Buckler. I write Dynasty content for Dynasty nerds, and I interact with people on there about if you have any fantasy questions or anything. Also, just started a podcast. You can find that at Keep It a Buck Cast on Twitter and pretty much any place where you get your podcast.
Yeah, we'll make sure we tag you and hook that podcast into our link when we send out this episode.
Appreciate that.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you, man. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great. Wow, that was great. Time for some dumb sports news. This week, the CDC sent out a warning of aggressive rats as lockdowns are lifted across the country. Many rats were forced into new territory as their regular turf became a food desert since restaurants were closing all over. What is one thing you would be willing to fight a horde of hostile rats for? Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm taking out any amount of rats for the classic pie pizzeria cheese pull-aparts. All day.
I do love cheese pull apart.
Those are really good. Yeah.
T, what about you? What are you willing to fight a horde of hostile rats for?
Probably a Raiders Super Bowl, honestly. I've been waiting for one of those for a long time, and rats are disgusting, but I think I would just, stack up and go for it.
Okay, but if you're going to do that, you got to dress up as one of the guys from the black hole.
Oh, easy.
Well, he's got to have protection if he's fighting a horde of rats. So, he's
Yeah.
going to be the freaking, Mad Max looking shoulder pads.
Yep.
That silver full face. Love it.
What about you, Sean?
You would think that it would be my infant son or my wife, but no. The thing that I would fight a horde of rats for is just basic necessities to live, like for me, an energy drink or coffee or anything that has any caffeine content, so to speak, of over 200 milligrams. I need it. I want it. I desire it. And it's worth risking my life for, because life isn't worth living unless I've got caffeine in my system. So I figure I go all in on that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've already done this at some point in time, or at least the equivalent. But when I lose the TV remote, I'm not lying when I say I'm pretty much willing to tear apart the entire living room looking for the thing. And we have a Roku, so it's not like I can just get up and change the channel by pushing a button. I actually need that remote because I hate using the app on my phone. So, I've pulled apart my entire couch. I've just done everything you can think of. So the idea of taking on a horde of rats is not even a doubt in my head. If I had to find a TV remote, I would it'd be Charles 1 and rats -5,000.
Just going straight genocide on the rats. I like it.
No survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Except for a couple that I'd send back to the horde.
As witnesses to tell the tale.
Just remember what happened here. Don't ever get between me and that remote. All right, as part of the All-In Challenge, the Browns are offering the opportunity for 2 people to help script the first 15 plays of a preseason game. One winner will be determined via auction and the other from a raffle. Browns coach Kevin Stefanski will invite both winners to help him and offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. Who cares about the names? Who wrote this thing? The first 15 plays to open a preseason game. Raise your hand if you knew who the Browns coach was. Exactly. The winners, as well as a guest of the auction winner, will also be invited to a team dinner and team meeting the night before the game. If Odell Beckham's there, that's going to be a run. You'll be able to go through the tunnel with the players and receive pregame sideline passes. So, if given the opportunity to do this, what is the worst scenario that you could imagine happening to the Browns by letting fans script the first 15 plays? I'll go ahead and go first. I can just imagine 2 Steelers fans getting in there and dialing up either 15 straight punts or 15 straight quarterback sweeps. Anything that makes the preseason game completely wasted or gets Baker hurt right away. That's what I think would be the worst case scenario. What about you guys? Sean, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking anything that puts Nick Chubb at risk too. That'd be the other one. So if you've got crazy plays, like if people want to do like speed options or double reverses, or God forbid they actually stick to a script and you had a play action pass on like a 3rd and 12, trying to get someone killed, those would just be, Mike Mart's 5, 7, 8-step drops that dude used to do back in the day. Like all sorts of horrible things that could happen. Especially if they're allowed to do route combinations and they make crazy routes up that are impossible to do. Like this dude's going to do a slant out, sluggo, pirouette, button hook. Just kidding. You're going on a fade route. Like that's not going to work. I'd like to see a hook and ladder. Somebody throw that back out there. That'd be nice. But I would hope to see, something unique, something that came from like NFL blitz. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to see a leg drop that came from NFL blitz either. And that would probably be the worst thing for the Browns is to have either Baker Mayfield or Nick Chubb get hurt like in the first 3 seconds of preseason.
That's where I was going with it. I was going to say they're going to get some kid that's been playing Madden for the last 10 years. He's going to go in there and run 15 Hail Marys.
Is Hail Mary in Madden?
Oh, yeah. You just drop back, throw it in shotgun, Hail Mary every play.
All streaks, baby.
That's right.
What about you, T? What are you seeing as the worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario for the Browns is anybody with football knowledge getting their hands on, the ability to call these plays and finding out that coach is already better than the new coach that they have, which is totally possible. So, I mean, I think it would be hilarious. I would pay to see it, honestly. Like, it would be one of those weird sports movies that we're watching from Disney in 7 years when, hey, remember that one time that fan won that contest and then scored, 7 times on those first 15 plays and then ended up getting an NFL head coaching job?
What if Bill Belichick is finally trying to do right by his first coaching job, his only failure, and he just, goes in as Phil Belichick? And it's just obviously Bill Belichick with a mustache.
And long sleeves instead of cutoff sleeves.
Yeah. Only wearing long sleeves, a shirtless with only long sleeves from the shoulder down.
That would be great. I'd pay to see that. I'd pay to see Bill Belichick do that, or somebody like Chip Kelly just freaking get on the sideline. Or I like what T said, making it like a Disney movie, be like Rookie of the Year. We had briefly touched on horrific injuries and back alley surgeons trying to replicate it. You get something like this, and all of a sudden people are trying to get quality coaching jobs after they won the Madden Challenge. You know what I mean? Like, that'd be fantastic. And for those of you that don't know what a quality control job is in the NFL, Google it, because that's like an entry level but a great position. But yeah, that would be something you'd start seeing. Is if that ends up being a thing, probably QC jobs for teams entry level. Yeah, you never know. You might see somebody who knows a thing or two get a shot.
All right, folks, that's all we've got for this week. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. We don't know when you listen. Just have a good time.